beyond that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman?
He's looking at the list. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna comment on everything here, but, yes, as far as that goes, and a city flag, I think we talked about having a city flag at one time too, commissioning that so that we could have the third flagpole with that on it. A few issues. First, privilege of the floor. You know, I sit here and wonder to myself, when can I speak? When am I going to have a voice in return to what it is that's being said about me and about other council members up here? Whether it's fair or not, it should be allowed that when you speak, that we are able to answer you right then. Now, I brought this up before. I'd like a consensus of opinion here tonight to know if you are in support of us being able to speak in return. We had a couple of questions tonight asked about problems that folks here have on their streets. I know of one over on East Flower Avenue, and that it was about speeding. And I think that we should have a speed sign over there, all right? I was called about that 45, 50 miles an hour is not safe in the city, but it seems that people, I guess they see, or maybe they look at the speed sign at the entrance of the city as a suggestion. And then once they get inside the city, there's no more reminder of it, so they don't have to follow a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit. But it would be nice if, when somebody comes and addresses the privilege of the floor, if they have a question about a problem in the city, that they can get an answer right then, rather than waiting until this particular time of the evening, all through all of our resolutions, all through all of the comments that were made. This is our staff giving us information about what we're voting on, so we have a better understanding. And then we can answer you. And some of you have already left, I see, that had questions and statements. Some have stayed here. You know, and I don't think that it's fair that I address those few people, especially when they've come up and, in their opinion, just made it clear that they don't think that I matter as much as somebody who owns a house, because I don't own property in this city, okay? As though my purchased, as far as my owning a piece of property in the city, Robert, it's my time to talk right now, okay? So you know. And I'm going to address this because I'm tired of it. It goes back to the feudal system. When the kings owned the land, and so did the lords, the peasants didn't get many rights at all about doing anything. They didn't have any rights. And what you're suggesting by what you're saying about me owning property in the city is just incorrect, all right? Because I don't pay property tax, as the mayor's alluded to before in the past, doesn't mean that I don't matter, all right, that I don't get a say. We don't base somebody's vote on property rights or what kind of car they own or where they live in the village or what kind of job or any of those things. In fact, our country's not based on those things. It's a common principle. And maybe what you should do is go back and read what that common principle is. All right? It's based on an idea that we're all created equal under God, and we are all endowed with inalienable rights that we all share. Now, I happen to actually own property in the city up on Hunt Street right now. You can look it up. Okay, so I own property, but it doesn't make me have more privileges because I own property, all right? Because people who rent, to me, matter just as much. They have just as much of a right to have the work done on their side of the city, which has been neglected in many areas of the city for a long time. And it angers me in order for somebody to come before this council and say these things. They're not true. Much of what you'd said and suggested, what was the reasoning for the purchase of the land, is absolutely not true, but it is what was put out there for a long time, and it's one reason why we got one bid on the vendor up at the park, and so many other things that we've been facing for headwind. All right, but unfortunately, that is the case, and that's all I got to say on that issue. All right, so, you know, I personally,
It's not a
I
back and
matter,
forth.
people matter. I don't care if you're poor, rich.
Totally misunderstood what I said.
Robert,
No,
Robert,
but this is
not a
exactly
back
why I
and
want to
forth,
be able to
okay?
have this back and forth between,
No,
because
we're
when you're
not having
making a
this back-
comment about
Excuse me,
this kind of
Councilman.
thing, I am
We're not
talking.
having a back and forth. Exactly
I-
why we're not doing it.
I'd like to show
We're not
hands.
having a
Who
back
would
and
like to be
forth.
able to speak after
It's your
somebody
turn for
addresses-
privilege of the floor.
Is
This is
it?
not a vote.
You know
Carry
something?
on.
You know something? You're so much different in the back room. You don't do this for the camera, okay?
Will you carry
come out
on?
here, you got the gavel, you got the hammer, you can shut me down, you can say stuff to me, but back there, it's a whole different thing, isn't it, Mayor? Because when it comes right down to talking about the subject, And the same thing. You want to talk about it? I'd be happy to have a debate. You didn't have me on the radio show when I asked you. You didn't want to have that debate. Now, you've said a number of things, and I don't agree, all right? And you want to shut down this conversation. This is my time, all right?
Take it.
I am
Go.
taking it, I am. So I just wanted to say, in response to, I don't matter as much because I don't own property. Absurd. Anyone that thinks that in this city is absurd in thinking that they matter more because they own a house. It's just not true. And if you think that way, that's the basis of a lot of our problems in this city. You don't have to own a house in this city to matter, and you shouldn't have to own a house in this city to matter or have money. And that was the whole point of what I ran my campaign on, is to bring equality to the way the city operates for everybody in the city. And unfortunately, we have certain people who are elite and think they matter more because they have more materially. And that's a problem that I have. All right, so, and I heard, that's basically regurgitated from something I heard on the radio one day on the hotline. All right? So, we have some vaults on Court Street that I think we're gonna have to address that are in front of some of the businesses, Mr. Mix, that may not be considered in the Court Street project. I don't know, I heard this this week. I
Excuse me,
don't know
some what?
The vaults, the sidewalk that